Welcome. How many people here feel that the essence of everything is love? That's great. The essence of everything is love, and the essence of everything, no matter what it is entirely beneficial. And when we think about that or talk about that, sometimes it's easy to get caught up in the rapture of what that might feel like, the love. It's the love, oh, the love, it feels so good. Or we might want to start thinking about what that means, that the essence of everything is love. Because if the essence of everything is love, then what that automatically implies is that everything is beneficially intended, no matter what it is. But what does that really mean to us in a practical way in terms of the way we live our daily lives and the way we think, the emotions that we have and the experiences we have? Well, first of all, we have to understand what love is like in physical terms. So what it is like in physical terms, even in a way that we could look at through science and materialism. We experience ourselves as material beings to a certain degree, living in a world that appears to be material. And so how does all of this fit together and how does it apply? Well, all of the things that most of us think about ourselves are things that we've learned from somebody else. So very rarely do we have ideas about anything that's going on that is outside of conventional beliefs. We as human beings, Jagdish, please come in. Do you have something for someone?
Yes.
Please come in. Who ordered tea? Namaste, Jagdish. No problem. Problem?
You had discussed?
Yes, but that's fine, please. You're welcome anytime. When we talk about love to everyone means relief. It means complete relief from everything. So what does that mean in the terms of the way we operate on a daily basis? Well, one of the things we could say is that love being everything is like space. And when we look out at the vast expanse of space, the infinite expanse, what we can say about that is that it is infinite, it is indestructible, it cannot be destroyed, it cannot be burned, it cannot be changed, it undergoes no transition. We can't say that this is the space of the present and that there was a space unlike this one that is in the past and another space that will be in the future. So we can say that space too is timeless. And we can also today look at ourselves as individual entities or anything in our world, and we can apply different scientific instrumentation to it, and we can show that all appearances, all material appearances, everything that we might consider to be material is comprised of space. So we can look at it under the lens of an electron microscope and break anything down and see that it's comprised of electrons, and put it in a linear accelerator, and even beyond that, then we can see that everything is comprised of space. So no matter what we are, we're comprised of space. And this love that we are, can be equated to space. So it's inseparable from space. It's inseparable from the actual physical, material, basic space of everything. It can never be separated out, just like the color blue cannot be separated from the sky. The essence of love cannot be separated out from space. So how then do we experience ourselves? What exactly are the circumstances by which we experience ourselves? We experience ourselves as human beings because we are aware. We have awareness. And this awareness, too, is inseparable from space. So we don't generate awareness in and of ourselves, as everything is comprised of infinite space. Awareness is also comprised of infinite space. There's never been an individual entity that generated their own awareness. Nothing that appears, nothing that is material, no matter what it is self-originating. There is not a single appearance whatsoever that has ever been self-originating, is self-originating now, or will be self-originating in the future. So then we can look at all of the words in the dictionary, all of these things that we use to describe appearances, whether they're intangible or tangible, and we can see that they're all comprised of space, that the essence of this space is beneficial or wholly positive, love-based, and that this space is aware. So we exist and everything exists as aware pure space, a vivid appearance of aware pure space. And even though the material appearances may seem quite distinct and clear, these material appearances are distinct and clear according to our beliefs. And one of the common beliefs that most human beings have today, that they live by on a daily basis, is that this entire expanse of space is somehow time and location based. So this is a specific belief system, time and location, or time and space, that attributes everything to having time, both time and dimension. In other words, sequences of time that apply to all appearances, and also a location that applies to all appearances. And the other primary belief system that most human beings have today is one of causation, or cause and effect. And the belief system of cause and effect says that everything that appears has a cause, and that it is an effect of that cause. These are belief systems that have ruled much of humankind until this point in human history. But right now, human history is changing everything. So this location that we call human history, we're finding that it's really never been stuck anywhere, that it's too comprised of space, that it's never this space has never really been made into anything. It's never really existed as anything. So that's what we as humankind are toying with right now. What does that mean to us? And what does it mean to the way we live? What does it mean to the beliefs we've had about ourselves and the world we live in? Well, when we consider everything about ourselves as individual human beings and the way we live to be located within time and space and to be cause-based, then everything that happens with us we attribute to cause and effect. So if we have a thought, we attribute that thought to causes. If we have an emotion, we attribute that emotion to causes. And as we go about our daily life, everything that happens between us and other human beings, or between us and the world we live in, we attribute to causes. And attributing everything to causes leads to turmoil and suffering. When we attribute every thought we have and every emotion we have to a cause, then we're taking it outside of the space that it is comprised of, and we're saying that it is something in and of itself that can somehow cause us to be affected by it. This is very, very important, because most of us feel that we're completely at the whim of our thoughts and emotions, that we're completely at the whim of our experiences, that we're affected by our thoughts, that we're affected by our emotions, and that we're affected by our experiences, and that that's just the way it is. And we can never get outside that cause and effect, that we're human beings and we're at the effect of these thoughts, emotions, and experiences. So we whirl around in a turmoil of confusion, most of us for all of our lives, bouncing between thought and thought, emotion and emotion, and experience and experience. And we do so only due to conventional beliefs. We do so because we believe that these thoughts, emotions, and experiences can affect us in some way. How can we get beyond that? Well, the good thing to know about that is we already are beyond that. It's only our belief that makes us believe that we're not beyond that. And when we acknowledge what is at the basis of every thought, emotion, and experience, which is awareness, when we acknowledge that awareness and we get familiar with that awareness, we get familiar with that self-awareness by which we know we are, then we don't need to use so many conventional beliefs to describe ourselves or what's going on with us. All thoughts, emotions, and experiences, no matter what we've labeled them to be, are timelessly free. They're not time-bound. They're not located anywhere other than within awareness, aware pure space. So they're the dynamic energy of that pure space and nothing else. Nothing needs to be done about them because they're their own undoing. They're not a fixed thing. They have no independent nature. They have a label, but that label refers back to something that cannot be found. So we can take an emotion, for example, like anger, that's a label, but when we look into its essence, when we examine its essence, we can't really say that it has an essence of its own. We can't really say that anger is a thing that exists in its own right. Because if anger were a thing that exists in its own right, then we could show it somewhere. We could identify it and say that it exists as this thing, that it always exists as this thing, that there is a law of permanence that applies to that anger. And we can't really find that to be true about anything, because all labels, no matter what they are comprised of space. So if we continue to take all of our emotions and thoughts to have significance and importance in their own right, as though they are something according to all these things that are described through conventional beliefs, then they will. We'll think for our entire lives that our thoughts mean something, that our emotions mean something, that our past means something in terms of what's happening right now, and that we have to be afraid of the fearful consequences of the future, whatever those might be. When we live at the whim of our thoughts, emotions, and experiences, as they're described through conventional beliefs, then all of our lives we're never sure where we are. And the love that we're always looking for, we can't really find. We try to find it in a thought, but we can't find it there. Why can't we find it in a thought? Because it doesn't exist in the label. So if we say, oh, you know, I'm only going to have happy, loving thoughts, and that's how I'm going to find love, no one's ever been able to do that. Because love doesn't exist in happy, loving thoughts. Love exists in everything. It exists in happy, loving thoughts, but it also exists in negative thoughts and negative experiences and negative emotions, because all of these, no matter what they are comprised of aware, pure space. The label has never meant anything. The label is trapped in time and location, and it's trapped in cause and effect. But who we really are, that essence of us that is all love, all wisdom, all knowing, all aware at all times, has never been trapped by any designation whatsoever, whether it's time and space, cause and effect, skin color, dark skin or light skin, hair color, dark hair, light hair, medium colored hair, eye color, gender, geographical location, or anything else. Who we are, the essence of who we are, has never been stuck anywhere. It's never been made into anything. And this is what we really need to know at this point in human history about ourselves, more so than at any other time. We've always had people among us in humankind who have known this true nature of reality. But today is the first time in human history where many people are open-minded enough and also have the information available to really realize this truth and significance about who we are. And in this truth and significance about who we are as that which is completely beyond time and space and cause and effect lies the ability to solve our own problems as individuals and also the problems of our world. So, how do we go about doing that in a practical way? Well, how we go about doing that in a practical way is just to get familiar with the essence that is at the basis of each of us as human beings. At the basis of each of us, we know everything through awareness. So we wouldn't even know that we are human beings without awareness. So we have to go to this root of awareness, that by which we know we are, and that by which we know everything is. And when we return to that sense of awareness and just let it be, just rest in and as that awareness, when we return to that again and again, then we rest as that essence. We let be that essence of awareness that is beyond time and space, beyond cause and effect. And we don't need these chains of conventional beliefs so much to know who we are. We no longer need them because in resting as awareness, we immediately feel the self-benefit. So perhaps we've had a thought that's plagued us all our life, or perhaps we've had an emotion that's plagued us all our life, or perhaps we've always had an impulse to act according to a certain fashion that's plagued us all our life. When we begin to rest as awareness, we no longer have those impulses. They gradually lessen over time, and we open up into the spaciousness of our true being. So, it's as simple as this. Who we are, we already are. So we're not headed to a destination where we have to get that. We already are who we are. We're already beyond all conventional designations. And all that is required for us to become familiar with that is just simple open-mindedness. It doesn't depend on being schooled or not, or being smart or not, or anything else. Any human being anywhere on earth is aware, and all human beings can gain familiarity with that awareness. In that awareness is wisdom. In that awareness is super complete wisdom. Everything that appears within the vast expanse of pure space and is comprised of that space is like a mirage or a hologram or a magical illusion. It has no entity status. It has no self-originating mechanism. It has no essence that makes it a thing in and of itself. It's just like a mirage or a hologram. And just like we'd never try to get anything from a mirage or a hologram, we'd never see anything in a mirage or a hologram that we could count on, so too there's nothing in labels that we can count on, no matter what it is. And our thoughts, our emotions, our experiences, when they're known in this way, have less and less of a hold on who we take ourselves to be. We open up, and we no longer take ourselves to be these limited biological entities that we've described ourselves to be through information that we've gotten from someone else. So, we describe ourselves to be who we are because we've been given information by other human beings who believe that they're that too. But does that really mean that that's what we are? Throughout all of human time, there have been beings who have known themselves as they really are. And these people have been the wisdom bearers of humankind who have carried this wisdom from generation to generation. And not only have they been wisdom bearers, but they've been demonstrations of the tremendous benefit of knowing ourselves as we really are. When we get familiar with awareness, that's equal to wisdom. So that the more familiarity we have with the awareness that is at the root of all perceptions, the more familiarity we have with true wisdom, wisdom that doesn't rely on thinking, wisdom that doesn't rely on conventional designations about the way things have always been described by everyone and everything. No one has ever been bound by that. But, I could sit here and talk about that all day. Unless each person gets familiar with it in their own experience, there'll be no knowledge whatsoever of what I'm talking about. We can't think ourselves into this. We can understand it somewhat through thinking about it, but we need to decisively experience what is at the basis of everything in order to really, really understand, to really allow that wisdom to come totally alive. And like I said, this is within the purview of everyone. That means anyone can do it. Purview, it means anyone can do it. It's already within the view of everyone. It's like a dimmer switch, one of those switches that you turn up and it gets brighter and brighter. The only reason that we may not know this about ourselves is only because the dimmer switch is turned down. And when the dimmer switch is turned down and we only take ourselves to be whatever the descriptions are in the dictionary, the descriptions that have been handed to us by others, then we don't see the clear view. We don't see the all-encompassing pure view of awareness. We don't see that as ourselves. We see something else, whatever's been taught to us. When we get familiar with who we are, we just feel better all the time. There's no other way to say it. It's not a mysterious, esoteric matter. It doesn't belong to any kind of category or institution. It doesn't belong to philosophy. It doesn't belong to religion. It doesn't belong to spirituality. It's never been owned by any country or by any person. This is just the way we are as human beings. It's our human nature. And we can either get familiar with it or not. But when we do get familiar with it, then we pass beyond cause and effect. We just pass completely beyond cause and effect. All these things that are always proliferating and stirring within us, and then resolving our thoughts and emotions about experiences, we realize more and more that all these appearances are really allies. They're really friends. We've never been at the whim of them. It's all what we take them to be. If we take them to be a monster, they will be. If we think we're ruled by our thoughts and emotions, then we will be. If we think we're affected and ruled by our experiences, then we will be. And when we get to know ourselves as we are, the more we know ourselves as we truly are, the more we see that we're really not affected by all the labels that we've attributed to everything, no matter what they are. If the first time we're angry when we're a little kid, somebody says to us, "Oh, don't be angry, that's bad," then right away we take that anger, this big surge of energy, it's been labeled anger, and we feel it's bad. So from then on, whenever this big surge of energy comes up, we think anger, bad. So we've got to put that in the pile of points of view that we want to get rid of. And we're usually taught to replace it with something else. Someone says to us, "Be nice." Don't be angry, be nice. So we learn to then think, be nice, that's a good thing. So now we're gonna make a big pile like Mount Everest of being nice. But no matter how nice we are, and what is implied that if we're nice, then we'll have well-being. We'll feel good and we'll get along with others. But even the nicest people on earth will not find well-being in being nice. There will always be something stirring in the background there that isn't nice, like death or critical illness or something unpredictable that happens. There will be unniceness that comes up somewhere. And because, we can never find well-being in a label, not unless we know the true meaning of that appearance. And the ultimate meaning of everything cannot be found to exist according to the description of the label. So, I just invite everyone to give it up. And I see people all over the world, and I know by now that there are some people who are ready and there are other people who aren't. Many people enjoy the conventional ways of looking at things, and that's okay. But anyone who is ready, that's really great, because those of us who are ready among humankind to adopt a new mind that is beyond cause and effect, beyond time and space, that isn't trapped in all these conventional designations, we can be of great benefit to ourselves and to others, of tremendous benefit. We have urgent problems facing the world, for us as individuals and for our species and the planet as a whole. And we desperately need wisdom to solve these problems. We need wisdom to solve the problems that are within ourselves that make us feel like a ping pong ball all of our lives, bouncing back and forth between thoughts, emotions, and experiences. So we need to find how to benefit ourselves and come to terms with everything that goes on with us internally. And as we do so, we recognize the amazing benefit in that. We recognize through our own first-hand experience, just like a scientist has a hypothesis, they test it, and they see the result. So I'm just inviting you to find out the same thing about yourself. Here's a hypothesis for you, test it, and you'll see the result. That's all there is to it. And the result is wisdom. It's not getting into some kind of state of holding on to awareness and saying, oh, I'm in awareness, everything is okay. Awareness is inseparable from wisdom. Wisdom and awareness aren't something that needs to be held on to. Awareness and wisdom are self-kept. They're self-held. They're not holdable and keepable, and there's no one to hold them or keep them. So when we just rest as awareness, less and less do we feel ourselves to be so defined by all the stirrings within us, the stirrings that say, I'm me, I'm somebody, I need certain thoughts to make me feel good, I need certain emotions to make me feel good, I need certain experiences to make me feel good. What I've just described, that's not well-being, that's addiction. So this self-centered identification with being somebody who always needs more and more to make it feel good, the right kinds of thoughts, the right kinds of emotions, the right kinds of experiences, that's just an addiction, because it doesn't really resolve anything. It doesn't really tell us the truth about who we are, and it gives us an extremely limited identity of ourselves that's based on an individual self, a personal identity. I'm somebody, and I crave and need all these things to make me feel good, no matter what they are. But there's nothing wrong with that. That's fine if that's the way you want to live. But if you don't want to live that way, then there's another way to live. Just know that there is another way to live. That self-centered identity is only one identity a human being can have. And just like people can change their identities whenever they want to on the internet, we all can change our identities too, from this self-centered identity to our wisdom identity. We can get familiar with this wisdom identity that isn't bound by a location called a body and by time and space. The wisdom identity isn't dependent on anything. It's not dependent on the body and all of the terms applied to the body, like birth, life, and death, waking, dreaming, sleeping. These are just labels. We learn that we're bound by all these things, but when we get familiar with awareness, we find gradually that we're not really dependent on these things. Where is the one who was born? Where is the one who's living? What is the location of that? And where is the one who will die? All that rests in awareness. It's only awareness that is aware of being born, living, and dying. And of all the appearances, no matter what they are, human beings are the only ones who have this self-awareness. We're the only ones who have self-awareness. So we are aware of being. And in the awareness of being, we have a very important choice with every thought, emotion, and experience we have. And that very important choice, the most important choice of all choices we will ever make in our human life, is to either go with the awareness that is the basis of that thought, emotion, or experience, that point of view within the all-encompassing pure view of awareness, to go with the awareness that is at the basis and just let that be and see everything through its lenses of the vast expanse of space, or to pick up a label and say, this is who I am. I'm an American. I have white skin. I'm a woman. I'm a this. I'm a that. I need this. I need that to make me feel good. So you see, we have this choice in every single thought, emotion, and experience we have. We have the thought to just get to know ourselves beyond everything that's been conventionally described to us, or to just continue to go along with what we've learned so far. It's that straightforward. Now, so what are we going to get from this? That's what everybody. What are we going to get from this in terms of how we feel on a daily basis? Well, just how we feel on a daily basis and how we live life when we get familiar with the awareness that is at the basis of everything. We have increase in well-being. We have an increase in well-being. And what does that mean? It means we just feel content and at ease more. We feel more at ease within our own skin, and we feel more at ease with others. instead of being all caught in here thinking about things all the time, our awareness opens up. It opens up and we realize that everything is included within that awareness. So in a totally uncontrived way, we feel greater intimacy and connection with others, no matter who they are. We feel a sense that all of us are indivisible, that there's never been any division anywhere. More and more we feel that no one is a stranger, rather than seeing somebody and thinking, oh, I've never seen them before, they're strange to me, and should I talk to them or not? Do they look scary or not? Is it going to be okay to say hello? We just have a great sense of everything the way it is, without knowing anything in particular and without thinking. We just are like a meta radar. No matter where awareness turns, it knows everything that's going on in a super complete way. So we become less and less identified with ourselves as being stuck here, in this flesh suit. And without even thinking about it, we become more familiar with the awareness that is at the basis. It's the awareness by which we know the flesh suit. We wouldn't know anything about who we are without awareness. Now, this fleshy thing, it really seems like it is something, doesn't it? It really seems like this is something. This really is something. And it's kind of threatening because we really can't get out of it, but a lot of us don't know how to live with it either. We feel kind of trapped here. We were born, and we will have lots of people that'll agree with that and tell us we were born. And then we all are kind of afraid of this thing coming up called death that applies to this meaty substance. But, we can read books for the rest of our lives. Grey's Anatomy, there's a good book about this. That's a TV show now too, isn't it? Lots of people like that. I've never seen it myself, but anyway, Grey's Anatomy. So we can understand everything about this anatomy. We can study Grey's Anatomy on our own, look it up on the internet. We can go to a university and study Grey's Anatomy. We can find out everything there is to know according to current knowledge about every single particle of this meaty substance and everything within it. And not only the tangible parts of it, but the intangible things too, the neurology, the neurotransmitters, how all these things work together. We can be so well schooled in that no one can surpass our knowledge of the anatomy of the human body. But is that going to bring anybody well-being? To know all these things that have been conventionally described about the body? And what about the psychology? Knowing all these conventional things that are described about psychology. Oh, you have this problem with anger, depression because of these things. When you were a baby, you were born and your mother put you in a room and she slept in another room. And so now, and that made you angry for the rest of your life. And also it gave you your fear of abandonment. All of these things, they're made up. It's just like, they're no different than reading a Danielle Steele book. Do you know who that is? Now, I've never read one of these books, but I know who she is, and she lives near where I do. And But on airplanes, I see lots of people reading Danielle Steele books. So, and I hear their romance stories. So, you know, no matter what it is that we learn about ourselves, psychology, and all of us would agree with this, none of it has ever given us well-being. And this is what we want. When we study about our bodies or our psychology, our physiology or psychology, we want to know more about who we are as human beings. But none of these things have ever brought us well-being. There's only one thing that has ever brought human beings well-being, complete well-being. The super complete well-being that is a dynamic expression of benefit, of superb helpfulness to everyone. And that's to know our true nature. And in order to know our true nature, the word true nature, that term, it's an abstraction. It's a total abstraction of emptiness. It means absolutely nothing. We have to be aware of a true nature in order to know what a true nature is. So that means that the true nature, in order to find out about that, we have to know about awareness. We have to gain familiarity with awareness. We have to gain familiarity with that by which we know we are, awareness. And when we return to that again and again, we do gain familiarity with it. And then all of a sudden, all of our thinking anymore, it isn't so much about us and our self-centered concerns. Our thinking gradually becomes more dynamic, more filled with energy, more about not just our own life, but about the lives of everyone altogether and the planet we live on, and not just about other human beings, but about all beings. We come to care very greatly about this. So all the things we really want to care about, we're able to care about just through gaining familiarity with awareness. And not only do we care about these things, but what comes alive in us is a very dynamic expression of actual wise benefit. So we see incredible solutions, not only to our own problems, the problems of our own lives or our own concerns, but the concerns of everyone. So all of this through gaining familiarity with awareness. This is something we can't find in psychology books or physiology books. They can only take us so far to understand. All that understanding is within cause and effect, time and space. It says that we're time-bound, that as beings we're sequential, that we're subject to past, present, and future. All these things we just learned, but to operate effectively within cause and effect, we can operate most effectively by knowing ourselves as beyond cause and effect. When we know ourselves as beyond sequence and causation, then we're truly able to see the workings of cause and effect, understand them completely, and move in an effortless, easeful way to be of benefit, not only to ourselves, but others. So, you know, everything I have to say to you could be summed up in one sentence. Rest as awareness, no matter what you're doing. And in that, you will come to know everything that can be known as a human being and beyond. Does anyone have a question they'd like to ask?
Just a suggestion. Could you please describe what is rest in awareness? Because there are many persons who have come for the first time.
When we just relax our mind completely, the body doesn't even have to be relaxed. It can be completely unrelaxed, but just rest the mind completely. And to rest the mind completely means to just rest without descriptions. So when a description comes up, just continue to rest without elaborating on the description, whatever it is. If a thought comes up like, what am I doing here? Just rest rather than saying, oh, I should have gone to the market in Rishikesh today. Rather than allowing all the prescriptions and descriptions to proliferate, rest is that has no prescriptions or descriptions. And to rest as awareness means to rest as awareness, just to let awareness be as it is for short moments, repeated many times until it becomes automatic. So rather than trying to contrive or feign a period of rest, like sitting and just resting for a long time, rest repeatedly as awareness for short moments, repeated many times in all kinds of situations until it becomes automatic. And in this way, you will arrive at the point of awareness without trying to hold awareness or keep it. There'll just be wide open awareness all the time. So it's very easy. It doesn't need any special circumstances. Awareness already is the stuff of all circumstances. So in resting as awareness for short moments repeated many times, that is recognized. And awareness, the short moments of awareness gradually grow longer. So initially there may be in the first day just a few seconds of awareness, and then the second day we might forget completely. And the third day it might be a minute of awareness. But just in this simple way, every day there will be more and more awareness until there's a half an hour, several hours, several days, a month, months, years. So the choice is to either get familiar with awareness in this simple, straightforward way. And once we begin to accumulate these moments, so to speak, we don't have to hold on to them like we have a big pile of awareness that we're hoarding, like a pile of gold. It's self-kept, it already is, so there's no one to hold it or keep it. And we don't have to worry about the I or the ego or the personality or any of this, because that's only made of awareness. So when we go to awareness, we go right to the basis of everything we need to know about that. Whatever that is completely resolved through resting as awareness. There's nothing that needs to be done about it. The appearance of ourselves as somebody is completely taken care of in resting as awareness. If we try to force awareness, then through contriving it in a certain way, like by changing our behavior into good behavior, or changing our lifestyle into another lifestyle where it's going to be easier for us to rest as awareness, then we're just creating more and more conditions related to awareness. So we're saying that awareness can only be in certain conditions. But in a very simple way, we can already see that that isn't the case. Awareness is not dependent on anything. It is not based on conditions. Whatever your circumstances are, those are the perfect circumstances for resting as awareness. I know this is the truth because I know men who are in prison for life and on death row who are resting as awareness, so they don't need any special conditions. I know people in all kinds of circumstances all over the world, whether they're in prison, a physical prison or not, who are resting as awareness. And no matter how crazy your mind has been in your life, that's a prison of a sort, isn't it? To have a mind that's just filled with all these thoughts and emotions, that feels like a prison. So you see, there's not only the prison that's made out of those big cinder blocks with guards in the towers. there's the prison that's right in here. But no matter what your conditions are, no matter how frenetic your mind is or calm it is, no matter how crazy your emotions are or how calm they are, how in between, wherever you live, whether you live in America, Europe, Africa, Asia, Australia, it doesn't matter. Your circumstances are absolutely perfect for resting as awareness, whether you're starving to death or you weigh 500 pounds or somewhere in between, whether you have clean water or not. Whatever your circumstances are, they're perfect for resting as awareness. Now let's get right down to it. Whether you're having sex or not, that's a perfect circumstance for resting as awareness. Resting as awareness has never been bound by any conventional designations. It's the root of all conventional designations. So no matter where you are, what you're up to, I always have to say defecating because, yeah, that too, the root of that is awareness. We're aware of defecating. So no matter what it is, you see there are no special circumstances. When we rest as awareness for short moments, repeated many times, regardless of circumstance, then we definitively begin to realize that we are not dependent on anything. Awareness is not dependent on anything. If we continue to apply conditions, say, oh, I have to be living in my special place in order to rest as awareness, or I have to have a special kind of job, where I'm feeding the hungry or something like that in order to rest as awareness, then you see we've instantly created duality, just more duality, just more points of view, or no, I'm not going to be a good enough person to know awareness unless I'm celibate. All of these are conventional designations that some people apply to awareness, but they never do apply to awareness because awareness isn't bound by anything. This morning it just occurred to me, what are some of these conventional things that we've come to believe? Like, we're all here in India, and in India there's an interest in resting as awareness. India is the only country in the world where there's been a focus for thousands of years on what's called self-realization. And in the history of self-realization, this practice that I'm talking about, resting as awareness for short moments, repeated many times, is one of the oldest practices. It's at least 17,000 years old. And of all the practices, this is the practice whereby the most people have realized the essence of their being. Why? Because it's not taken to be anything other than what it is, the essence of being human. It's not locked in any tradition or anything. But yet somehow this that is always so easy has become lost in certain kinds of lifestyles that people somehow connect with awareness. So I wrote down a few words that are these kinds, they're like little threads, and very often we think, this really does have something to do with resting as awareness. I really need to be a certain kind of person in order to rest as awareness. And these are just a few things I wrote down, and I'm sure all of you can come up with other things or maybe even better things. Somber, solitude, silence, isolation, authoritarian, hierarchical, male, difficult, impoverished, austere, non-sexual, pious, severe, otherworldly, and ultimate. Well, now these are all things that, somehow it seemed to become very difficult for us to realize our natural state. And we have all these subtle ideas or overt ideas about what is required in order to do that. But, none of these things Well, a lot of these things, they really sound forbidding. So there aren't many people who would want to enter these kinds of lifestyles. And increasingly, there are fewer and fewer. But indeed, there is no lifestyle that's necessary. And all lifestyles are perfect. So I'm not saying to do away with what I've just described. Whoever wants to live that way, they can. And rest is awareness in that circumstance. That's fine. But what I'm saying here is that getting familiar with our true nature does not depend on circumstances. And if we just look at ourselves and say, here I am today, these are the commitments I've made in life. In other words, I've involved these other people in my life. They're my family members. No one has forced me to do that. I've said to these people, you're my family members. We're going to be together all of our life, and we're going to love each other and have responsibility for each other. That's what a commitment is. So, you know, there's no reason to ever be outside that commitment that already is. If we say, oh, I can only rest as awareness, if I give up all these commitments, then it seems like awareness depends on something. And awareness doesn't depend on anything. You know, when people come to me and want me to be their teacher, there are many people who say, oh, I've got to get rid of my family. I can't stand this kid or these kids. I've got to get away from my husband or my wife or my job or whatever it is. And I just say, find another teacher. You know, I'm not the one, because I know awareness isn't dependent on anything. And very often this matter is used as an excuse to abdicate responsibility for commitments we've made. But there's nothing that we have to change. There's nothing that need be done. Everything is perfect all at once, just the way it is. And, you know, it certainly isn't gender biased or anything else. Everyone is aware, from the most recently born infant to the person who dies this very moment. It doesn't matter. It doesn't depend on anything. It doesn't depend on anything whatsoever. It doesn't depend on any condition or circumstance. It doesn't depend on any thought or emotion. It doesn't depend on any experience. It doesn't depend on anything. No matter what it is that appears, it's like a mirage. So to think that awareness is dependent on a mirage, that's kind of silly.
You said we should rest in an uncontrived manner. So this is the first time I'm feeling that you are indicating towards the meditation.
Pardon?
Looks like you are indicating towards the meditation, that in meditation we are in a way forcing ourselves to rest in awareness. So I never related that before, but we should not meditate.
Well, you know, what is meditation? What does that mean, really? What does that mean, Anil?
Resting in awareness and trying to increase the length of that duration of the rest, and in some sense maybe the depth also.
The depth of it?
Yeah.
So that's what meditation is?
Yeah.
And
but it is in a way forced upon ourselves.
it's forced. Is there a special circumstance that's required for meditation?
That is what up to today I believe.
Up to today, you believe?
I believed, let us say.
When we look at any word, including meditation, then we want to know what ultimately that word means to us. So if we're meditators, ultimately what every meditator I've ever known is looking at is having that meditative state all day long in all circumstances. So not just in a special circumstance of sitting on a cushion. When there's meditation, there's rest as awareness. In other words, awareness is predominant no matter what is appearing. So we're talking about completely uncontrived medication. Sought through prayer and medication to improve ourselves. So what we're looking for in meditation is this ultimate meditation that will pervade waking, dreaming, and sleeping. That's the ultimate all-out goal of meditation. So if that is what meditation is, then of course most of us would want to arrive at that in the easiest way possible. Isn't that correct? To have that all-pervasive awareness, waking, dreaming, and sleeping, and to do it in an easy, effortless way. Well, throughout all of time, for at least 17,000 years that we know of, this has been the ultimate meditation, imperturbable rest, handed down from generation to generation, like a chain of golden mountains. The lineage that is so pure it has no lines. The meditation that is super complete in itself, because it already is the basis of everything. You see, if we say, well, I can only meditate when I'm sitting on a cushion or I'm sitting in a special place, and that's the only way that I can get familiar with the awareness that is the essence of everything, then that's what we believe. It's just what we believe. But believe me, this meditation that is, I didn't meditate. I didn't meditate in that way you described, but I did meditate by resting imperturbably in all circumstances and conditions. And in that way, it became pervasive in waking, dreaming, and sleeping. I'm not saying don't meditate on a cushion. Do whatever you like, but when you're meditating on the cushion, just allow everything to be as it is. Whatever the thoughts are, whatever the emotions are, whatever the sensations are, they're inseparable from awareness, just like the brilliance of a diamond is inseparable from the diamond. The thoughts, the emotions, the sensations, they're the dynamic energy of awareness. They can't be separated from awareness. So no need to do any kind of one-pointed meditation like follow the breath, think of certain things, visualize the deity, look at a candle flame, whatever it might be. Watch the sensations. Just rest as awareness, and everything will become more and more resolved. It'll become clearer and clearer that this thing that we call non-duality, that everything really is non-dual by nature. If we say certain conditions are necessary and that awareness is dependent on certain conditions, it's going to be very, very difficult to realize that everything is a single non-dual expanse, because we've placed conditions on it. We've said awareness is dependent on something. Now, another very important part of this that I, as you know, I state over and over again, and I'm not going to overlook it now either, is that we not only want to have this meditative condition or absorption that's all pervasive, whether waking, dreaming, or sleeping. That's only a state. That's a state of being. However, inseparable from that state is super complete wisdom that is superbly helpful and never thinks about meditation or any dependent circumstance again. So you see, that's the real fruit of meditation, not the state itself. Now, if we think the state itself is the end of the line and we get off the train here, then we're going to be stuck in that state.
So the goal of meditation is achieved when it makes itself useless.
Pardon?
So the goal of meditation is achieved when it made itself useless.
Ah, I love that. Music to my ears.
It was meant as a question, but
Oh, was that a question?
oh, somehow.
I thought it was a profound expression, a jewel of wisdom speech. I'm not saying anything new. You know, throughout time there have been people who have meditated on cushions and done all kinds of methods and practices, and one man even wrote 200 books about all those methods and practices, suggesting them to others, and these are some of the greatest books ever written about methods and practices. But then in the end he said, I was wrong. None of that is necessary. Just rest imperturbably. And well, we already are who we are, so how difficult could it be to be that? So you see, even with elementary faculties of discernment and discrimination, we can say, if we already are this, then we already are this. How difficult could it be to be this? Why would we have to go through some kind of ordeal of 20 or 30 decades to figure it out or find it out? And then we could also say to ourselves, just, you know, in the sense of being a good consumer, we could say, well, of all the people who do all these methods and practices, how many do achieve the result? So in this way we can say, well, you know, today we have lots of information about everything. And this is one of the things we have a lot of information about. So we now know something that wasn't known just maybe even 15 years ago or even 5 years ago. And that is that there is this one practice that has upheld humankind from generation to generation. Rest imperturbably. Rest naturally as awareness for short moments, repeated many times, until it becomes obvious at all times. And in that obviousness will be the evidence of wisdom power of potent benefit. Wisdom power that is completely beyond causation, completely beyond time and space.
It's been answered.
I can understand resting in awareness in the waking state, but let us leave out the dream state. That is a little bit fuzzy sort of thing. But you speak of deep sleep state also. That is little bit not clear. Means in deep sleep we are already in the awareness.
Mm-hmm.
So what is it? Something different type of deep sleep that we are used to? What I am saying is, does the deep sleep changes from resting in awareness, from what we are used to? I'll repeat that phrase.
Well, most people, when they sleep, just conk out and then they wake up the next morning. And so there's no awareness at all that's kept during that process of dreaming and sleeping. Are we just turning the microphone over to Anil forever now? I think Anil should have his own microphone.
I was looking that nobody else is asking, then only I raise my hand.
That's okay. I'm just teasing, you know that. Yeah, so you see, when we gain familiarity with awareness, then a lot of these belief systems we've had about who we are, they just break down naturally. And to stay aware while dreaming and sleeping is as simple as staying aware while going to sleep. So most of the time, we've just learned that we lie down and that's it, we go to sleep. And once in a while, we might remember something we dream, and other times we don't. But we usually feel kind of like we as beings are at the whim of dream and sleep. So we don't have any control over what goes on there. But indeed we do. So when we're falling asleep, just in falling asleep, to rest as awareness and notice how all the thoughts, emotions, and sensations, they resolve in awareness. They resolve in a non-conceptual state. But let's say that all the thoughts, emotions, and experiences are points of view within the all-encompassing pure view of awareness. Then all of a sudden, all the things that are thought about become non-conceptual. But non-conceptuality is just another point of view. It's not a place we're trying to get to. It's not a destination. So at that point, remain aware as that non-conceptual state. That is very, very powerful because it shows definitively that awareness is the root of the non-conceptual state. The non-conceptual state isn't something in and of itself. It's due to awareness, and it's not some kind of destination that we need to hold on to. Remaining aware at that point, maybe the first night, maybe some night down the road, you will remain aware as you drift into sleep, and you will remain aware during the dream state. Maybe at first, and you'll be able to actively participate in the dream rather than being at the whim of it. In other words, you can change what goes on in the dream. And then falling into deep sleep too, it's possible to maintain awareness all night long. Now, some people do this as a practice, so they'll do it for the rest of their lives, remain aware all night long, every night. But what's most important about this practice is that in doing so, you see through your own firsthand experience that awareness is not dependent on dreaming and sleeping. Do you see what I'm saying? You see that you are not at the whim of dreaming and sleeping, which you once thought you were. So you see that you're not dependent on that in a very definitive way. So these three ways in which we describe ourselves as humans, waking, dreaming, and sleeping, that's completely gone beyond. And we see that all those points of view are within the pure view of awareness.
Something like that was experienced last night, so that is why I
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
I think he's mixing two things. Sleep and meditation is separate. Sleep is sleep, meditation is meditation. Sleep has no relation with meditation.
Well, that's one way of looking at it, but they're actually inseparable. whatever the appearance is, it's inseparable from what you're calling meditation. So sleep is an appearance, and it's equal to every other appearance. All appearances are absolutely equal, and all appearances have as their root awareness. It doesn't matter what it is. There never have been two. That's what non-duality means, that there never have been two. Meditation is to rest as awareness. That's what meditation is. And when we just rest as that natural state, it becomes more and more familiar. And as it becomes more and more familiar, we see that it's inseparable from everything, no matter what it is. It's inseparable from dreams, it's inseparable from sleep, inseparable from waking, inseparable from birth, inseparable from life, inseparable from death. In this way, we go beyond all these things we've taken ourselves to be. If we get lost in a state, then we get lost in a state. We might feel better, but it doesn't mean we've arrived anywhere. We're just lost in a state. So you see, wisdom, because it isn't tied to anything conventional, it doesn't have any conventional beliefs, so to say, about things. It can do anything. It can move anywhere. It can be effortless and very, very fruitful in its benefit. If we're sitting around and we get lost in a state, say we've been meditating for 10 years or even 5 years or 5 minutes, and we get lost in a state, and then we can stay there, a non-conceptual state or a state of no self or a state of bliss or a state of clarity, then we will have arrived somewhere. We will have arrived in a state. And we can stay in that state if we want to. We have self-choice. So people have disciplined themselves to stay in all kinds of states. And India is a wonderful display of that, right? But if we know that that state is due to awareness, then we pass beyond awareness. We pass beyond being state-bound. And beyond being state-bound is the clear light of wisdom that requires no state. It doesn't adopt any extremes ever, and it's of tremendous benefit. If we stay in a state, people don't get fed, and they don't get clean water, and they don't get waste management, and they don't get the end of war, and these other things that we so desperately need as human beings. It's easy to get lost in a state, but a state it's just more Maya. It's more Mara. It's more illusion. It's just another mirage, another dream. It may feel better, but and it may be of benefit to us personally, and we may even be able to convince ourselves that it's of benefit to everybody. But, you know, how much benefit could it be to everybody when 85% of the world's people don't have enough food to eat? So beyond all these states is wisdom. And it's rip-roaring wisdom. Do you know what that means? It doesn't have any ties or boundaries, and it'll say anything.
Just to kind of concise what you just said, the point that you were just making, Krishnamurti said, to be is to be related. And it seems that many of the people who are pursuing this state that you speak of, which they do through this many-faceted thing, I think, which is called meditation and very little understood thing, which we call meditation, are in fact isolating themselves, and in some way it seems, in many ways, not living and being part of the world. They are not related, and so somehow they are not, because they are not related. And like you said, the world demands, this planet demands, if we want there to be a place for our grandchildren and great-grandchildren, for those of us who bear children, if we want a place for them to have this great experience, many things need to be done, because as much as you say that this fleshy being is a concept and perhaps isn't as solid as we think it is, it seems that this particular state of living on planet Earth requires that these molecules still are able to come together in this fashion. And the way that things are going now, the nature of things is being distorted so greatly that this great opportunity, however much it may be Maya, or it may be something greater, or it may not be as solid, or it can only happen if we get to work and do some things. And so these people who are going off to achieve some state, they're kind of not really participating in that, and we need everyone we can get, I think. So I said a lot more than I meant to. I just meant to confirm that, yeah, there's a lot of work to be done, and we don't necessarily all have the time to go and sit on a cushion. And so the point that you make, that it can be done anywhere, it's very freeing, and it's very freeing. Takes away the limitations that I think this meditation that many people are doing, or that we understand through all the definitions that we get, it's really kind of just practice for the real thing, which is to be walking through every day. And like you said, little by little, moment by moment, somehow learning how to release the mind from the constraints, the prison and the slavery of this conditioning, which are these thoughts, which condition our every moment, our every day. And if we can see that, conditioning, if we can see what's going on, if we can see that we're all somewhat neurotic, obsessed with and attached to these thoughts which we think are ours, which we think define us, if we see that in itself, that clear sight in itself, in that moment, is its own action. And it may not happen the first time, but like you said, if we look and we look, and we see the neuroses, we see the habit, we see that it's conditioned, that it's not us, that it's not who we are. If we see that again and again, yes, eventually it is its own action, and it can fall away. And in that silence, in that quiet mind, we can see clearly. And when we can see clearly the world outside us and see then what really needs doing, then maybe we can get something done.
Well, it isn't about having a quiet mind. It really isn't about that at all. The essence of everything, awareness, is inseparable from everything. So it isn't about getting quiet or even having a quiet mind. It's about awareness that pervades everything. It pervades quiet, it pervades chaos, it pervades up, it pervades down, it pervades time, it pervades space. And in that is the release of a tremendous amount of energy for benefit. But I can sit here and say these things as a philosophy forever, or suggest a simple manner in which to go about this, but we also have here the Great Freedom Teaching, which is not only a written teaching with teachers, but also this very incredible practice of resting naturally, and a worldwide community that has support 24/7 through a very advanced technology infrastructure. So it's not just something that's talked about, but we can definitively show people how to bring this about in their own life, and have been showing many people all over the world how to bring this about in their own life. It's very easy for us, when we've been accustomed to the habit of dualistic thinking, to say, I have to get still, I have to get quiet, or whatever it is. But awareness is that which, it doesn't adopt any extremes. It doesn't adopt the extreme of quiet or the extreme of noisy or the extreme of anything. It just is whatever it is. It's absolutely inseparable from all appearances, and that is what true freedom is. The true freedom is that all appearances, no matter what they are timelessly free. What people are doing in the world, you know, I see what everyone is doing, and I boil it down to this simple thing. We have a choice. Every single person can elect to make the most important choice there is to make in each thought, emotion, and experience. In each, I just call it all point of view, all the points of view that appear within all-encompassing awareness, and that is to rest as awareness no matter what appears. And what I see in traveling the world is that some people are ready to do that, and they do that, and they do it definitively. Other people kind of think about it for a while, and then they start to rest as awareness. Some people just think about resting as awareness, and other people don't want to have anything to do with it. Some people want to get into the state of awareness and just stay in a state. But self-awareness is nothing to hold on to. And anyone who really rests as awareness in the immediacy of all perceptions or points of view, they arrive at that. You know, they arrive at that there's no holding on to awareness. Awareness is inseparable from the firepower of wisdom. You know, it's a fire. It's a fire that it burns like a wildfire through all conventional designations. There isn't a conventional designation that can stand in its fire, no matter what it is. All the dreamt up things about our emotions, our thoughts, and how powerful they are, they're just all burned to nothing. Anyone who ever wants to do something about their emotional states, what they really want to do is feel better. That's what the goal is, just to feel better. And so why not do that which is permanent? Permanent. All emotional states completely resolve in awareness, and in that there's the knowledge of what to do about everything. So why depend on emotional states to inform who we are? Why depend on thoughts? Why not depend on wisdom? I've seen so many people completely relieved to give up psychology by resting in awareness. Whether it's, you know, looking at their own psychology and trying to figure out everything about it, or even being psychologists.
So I will try to relax my body and mind. I will try to relax my mind. I will try to rest, but I've still got 5 kids to feed. It's almost like the reality of stress that we perceive. The person who wouldn't be familiar with this might try to relax, but within that trying to relax, they're bringing the 5 kids in, if you know what I mean, or the pressure of life outside. What would be a suggestion for a person with that point of view or that reality?
Well, are you talking about yourself or a hypothetical?
It's an illusion.
Oh. Why don't we talk about me? I have 3 kids and 8 grandchildren and a husband. So let's talk about a real person. All right. And the advice is exactly the same: to rest imperturbably, to rest repeatedly again and again, with whatever the circumstantial points of view are of one's life. Whatever it is you're living as and doing, that's a perfect circumstance. And what once seemed like a nightmare, or it really seemed like a nightmare, but you'd try to make it into a happy situation by thinking about it. It'll just become a source of tremendous well-being, no matter what they're doing. Because have you noticed that even though you're resting as awareness, all your family members may not choose to do that? But does that mean you need to get different family members or leave those family members? No, it doesn't. It means you have a very rich ground for resting as awareness and fulfilling your commitment that you've made to that person. So, I know this in my own family. I'm also one of 6 children, so you see, I've never been able to get rid of all these people. And I see that some of them want to rest as awareness and others don't. But that's just the way it is. That's the way the world is. Some people are ready and others aren't. And the ones who are ready can be of tremendous benefit to themselves and the planet we live on. It's just a choice. It's not necessary to say that anyone's wrong or that even anyone's right. People are just exercising free choice, whatever they choose to be doing, whatever that is. Even all the people all over India, Tibet, and everywhere else who are sitting around in some kind of state are showing us something. They're showing us that that state is possible. They're showing that they've gone beyond some of the states to that state. That in itself is very powerful. But here, the great freedom is about that which is beyond all states. So you see, whoever is ready to really live as wisdom awareness, they show up here. And they want to do that. It just says they're ready. It isn't based on anything else. We could say all kinds of other things about it, but why complicate it? One of the things that has been totally amazing to me in my own life is to see that, when I was a young person, before I began resting imperturbably, I did want to be of benefit. And I actively sought to be of benefit and to be a good person. I was raised as a Catholic, and so doing good works was part of being a Catholic, and we have something called the corporal works of mercy that are different works of mercy one can engage in. So I did all these things and tried to be of benefit and tried to live according to good versus evil, like we all want to do. But when I began resting imperturbably, I found out something incredible. I found out that I didn't have to contrive compassionate action, that it's already naturally present. And that when I had tried to contrive compassionate action, I never felt like I could do enough. And I never felt like I was doing the right thing. And I always felt an overwhelming sadness about everything there was yet to do. But when I rested as awareness, I found that I was completely filled with a warmth of compassion that was tireless, completely tireless. For me, in everything I was doing, my work, with my family, everything, I just had more and more energy for everything. And so, it's just like today, I'm in my late 50s, so I'm at an age when many people are retiring or, going to live in some other kind of circumstance where they can kind of relax their tired bones and brains. And what am I doing? I'm tirelessly going all over the world, here, there, and everywhere. And, sometimes I sleep an hour. But it doesn't matter to me. I'm wide awake, whether I'm asleep or awake. So it just doesn't matter. So you see, I know through firsthand experience that there is this release of tremendous energy for benefit. And the Great Freedom Teaching came out of that. But then I also have gotten to see in the last 25 years many people I have met who have felt like they're not able, or they can't quite be of benefit, or they can't even get their own act together. They can't even get their own thoughts and emotions calmed down. So I've seen people who feel powerless and helpless to one degree or another, or people who have thought about their true nature a lot. And I see all of these people come into this wisdom power of great benefit, where people who have thought they couldn't really be of benefit, who become to be people who are of tremendous benefit, or even people who have been of benefit who are even of greater benefit. So you see, who we are is completely uncontained, but it's up to each of us to know that about ourselves. If you want to know that about yourself in an easy way, in a carefree way, you're in the right place.